So in class, what we did is we created our four values. We went in and we just created our organic shapes and created a value range from light to dark. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use these in our next project. So our project is going to be a value overlay project. So where we're going to create depth. So take a sheet of paper and you're going to draw about 6 to 10 random shapes on the piece of paper. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our first value and we're going to apply that value within these shapes. And this will be our first layer within the composition. So as you remember, just take your time, go around the edges, lay in your graphite. As we said before, we're going to go darker around the edges, and then we'll be using our blending tool eventually, or Kleenex, or your finger if you need to, and you're just going to go in and you're going to basically create your gradient. We want the edges to be darker, and we want the material to look like it's fading into the middle of the shape. Now remember, when you drew the shapes, none of the shapes are touching, and they don't touch the edge of the paper. So as of right now, we're only going to fill in the areas that we are considering the shapes for our composition. In the next stage, what we're going to do is we're going to draw in another 6 to maybe 8 random shapes. Now notice when I draw, I skip over the white line so as if the shapes were floating underneath this layer. So these are almost like little window boxes that we're looking through to see the other shapes, organic shapes, floating underneath. And as you can see, I'm trying to make the shapes go in between the different holes so they look like they're floating in different areas within the composition. So once again, we want at least 6 to 8 of them, and they can be fairly large. So now that we have the second shapes in, we're going to put in the second value. So basically, we're just going to go in and we're going to go around the edges like we've done before, trying to go darker around the edges first. Remember, this is our second value, so it's going to be slightly darker than the first one that we placed in. So once again, you're going to use your blender to try to make the transition as seamless as possible so that the gradient fades into the middle of the shape as you're moving in. After that's done, we'll put in our third value. So we're going to go in and put another row of objects or shapes, and then we'll take our third value and we're going to go back in and we're just going to go back over. So as you can see, the process is somewhat repetitious. Notice I have a piece of paper under my hand to try to keep my hand clean and not smudge all the edges. Occasionally, you haven't seen, but I'll sharpen my pencil or move to the mechanical pencil so that I can use a finer tip. And remember, the third value is much darker than the first and the second, so we're really trying to build up that layering effect as we move in. Now it's time to put in our fourth value. So we're going to go in again and just kind of draw in our shapes where you would think they should go. And once again, they're just floating over the other ones, so we build up that nice layering effect. I'm going to use my sandpaper and just kind of refine the tip on my tool, sharpen my pencil. And now I'm just going to go back in and just add in that final last dark layer and the fourth and final layer in the composition. So our value study project is finished. The layering process is done. One of the things I wanted to show you is when I have the camera laying, when the image is flat laying on the desk, it's not as dark as it will look. So when I take the image and I tilt it, you notice very quickly how the light reflects differently off the graphite. So that's just one of the things I wanted you to see, is that in our final project, the values that you're seeing on screen is slightly different than what they are in reality. There are some areas that I do need to go back in and do some more blending just to clean it up a little bit, but overall the project is done.